Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And Leo, nice to meet you. Yeah, we're joined by Leo Harrison, but I won't do him any justice doing a description of where he's come from and what he's done. So do you want to give a brief background on what you've achieved?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about me. So I was born in the UK, grew up in Hertfordshire, worked in London my whole career. My first job, first proper job was effectively selling fax machines and photocopiers. Please, fax machines were a thing back there. Yeah, then they were a thing. And we had one email account for the whole office, which tells you how old I might be. Yeah, my job was there to sell photocopies and fax machines. And it was for a company called Xerox, global business. And really what I was doing there was getting into the world of document management, which was, print effectively. I did all right selling photocopiers, but I didn't really want to do that for very long. So Xerox moved me into the mainstream, which is sort of document management services for some of their corporate clients, which was basically managing and running document centers, if you like, which then turned into marketing centers for global clients like BT. So I ran the BT in-house print room, which then turned into a design room, which is then how I kind of fell into creative service and design. So print was a thing back then. I know it's definitely not now, but it was a big deal. And we were doing lots of direct mail and all that sort of stuff. I did 4 years at Xerox, and then I met an incredible guy called Simon Martin, who is the founder of a company called Oliver. He came to me and said, I'm starting this business. We're going to start to build in-house creative teams. You've done this your whole career. I'd like you to come on board and be part of it. We had my interview ended up being just in all bar one over beers, which is great. And then he offered me the job next day. Little did I know that would start a journey of a 15-year trajectory that took a business from 4 people to 2,500, 3,000 people, which is now 5,000 people in over 40 countries around the world. Probably one of the most disruptive advertising agencies of our time at the moment. And the reason being is because it specializes in building in-house creative teams for global brands. So I had the privilege of working in-house KPMG, seeing how that operated, working in-house at Starbucks, seeing how they execute all their content creation, all their marketing throughout all their stores. I was responsible for everything you saw in a Starbucks across 2,000 stores internationally, and that was really stressful. I'll tell you about that later. That's a fun story. And then Unilever was the big one. We won the Unilever account, and usually, when you win Unilever, you win like one brand or one campaign, but we won everything, every brand, every category for Unilever across 19 countries around the world. And I was the guy who had to run around the world and deliver that lot, which was again quite stressful. So, yeah.
It sounds like a lot.
That's what I did. Yeah,
you'd never guess that looking at you, certainly.
Yeah, thanks. That's good. Lots of cream.
Interesting. So, I mean, looking at what you've done, it sounds like you've gone into a lot of bebusinesses and obviously being exposed to a lot of different sort of types of business and structures and so on.
Yeah.
What would you say has been sort of the most interesting sort of takeaway you've got from that?
I think the most interesting takeaway from seeing inside companies, one, from a service provision point of view, right? You're providing services for a customer.
Yeah.
There's no better place to be than inside their business, because when you're providing services, sometimes it goes really well, sometimes it doesn't go well. But when you're inside their offices, you're not really considered a service partner so much. You're seen as almost like one of them.
Yeah.
So you don't get relationship fatigue. You can have a bad meeting. Let's say you had a pitch meeting or responding to a brief or something, or as a service level review, and the meeting didn't go that well. You go back to your offices, the relationship fatigues a little bit, it festers. 3 weeks before you see the client again, they start looking elsewhere. But if you're in-house, which is a main part of what I've done for the best part of 20 years, the relationship doesn't fester. You can go, that was a really crap meeting, I'm really sorry. Can we grab a coffee? Yeah. And you sort it out. So nothing festers. And then, so that's from a service side. From internally, the biggest thing I saw was the pace at which Goliath companies had to move to digital from 2015, 16 to 2020, when everything went crazy on e-commerce. I saw Unilever do a project called Digital 2.0, which was to move every product they had to Amazon. And we had to do the pictures of every single product.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we deliver that. So yeah, the pace at which large companies need to move to keep up with innovation And we're seeing that just pick up pace faster and faster and faster. And how to service those sort of businesses being in-house, because you're more nimble and quicker and have close relationships.
So you'd say innovators that we have in the room are actually keeping those behemoths on their toes.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Exactly.
Stick at it.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And I noticed when you were giving your sort of, what you've achieved, and did you go to university?
Nope. Didn't do university. I wouldn't discourage university, but I'm not an academic, I don't even tell anyone I'm that clever. I work really hard and make up for it, but I didn't do well at school. I'll be honest with you, I was in the bottom sets for everything. My GCSEs, I was predicted straight E's and 2 G's. Like, take that home. That's not going to impress mum. So my mum and dad put me through private like home education, like got teachers to come to our house to scrape me through to get to college.
Nice.
I did business at college. And then when I got into business, I started to find a bit more of a purpose, stuff I liked. I liked, commercials. I liked marketing. I liked business, cash flow P&Ls, international organizations, the complexities of, dealing with companies across different borders and how they operate. So I found that really interesting at college. But I did recognize my strengths. And one of the most important things I've ever learned is to know what you're good at and know what interests you. And hitting books was not interesting me. So I went into work. So I literally started at the bottom at Xerox, picking up the phone and dialing.
Yep.
Which is good. Yeah. It built a good resilience. One of the things I'd say to like anyone setting up a business or trying to do something, the hardest thing you could possibly do is pick up the phone and try and sell something no one's ever heard of and you're a nobody. It's very easy when you pick up the phone and you say, hello, I'm Xerox. They're like, okay, they know you and they talk to you and stuff. And they give you at least probably a few sentences before they say no. But when you say you are X company, which, you're trying to find, you believes a lot to you, but they don't know who it is. That's really hard. And the resilience you need to do that is incredible.
And it's amazing. I speak to founders quite frequently of new businesses, and often they'll say, I've done 3,000 calls, 4,000. They keep kind of metrics for interest because they find the number of phone calls they've got to make and the number of the amount of traction they get can be quite minimal. But actually, those are the real customers that you want to win, get on board, particularly at the early stage, I'd say. Yeah,
I mean, I set up chapter 2 weeks before COVID landed. Nobody wanted to hire anybody. In fact, it was obviously the opposite. And I spent 9 months, everyone saying no.
Yeah.
9 months.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of calls.
Yeah. Okay. And what's been the biggest challenge so far?
In my career?
Yeah.
Biggest challenge. So I've had like work challenges and I've had personal challenges. My biggest personal challenge is probably, trying to be a good dad, a good husband, and have the ambitions and the level of dedication I want to the company to build something, and trying to balance that whole life. So I've got a personal coach, and I ask one question of this personal coach, and the only one thing we talk about is how am I balancing those 3 things: dad, father, dad, husband, and CEO. That's all I really want to make sure that I'm balancing those 3 things, and that's probably the biggest ongoing challenge I have.
Yeah,
because I want my kids to know that they got a present dad, but I also want to be a really successful CEO. So that was the biggest sort of personal challenge. From a work challenge perspective, I'll give you a funny story, which was the Starbucks one, which is at Starbucks, I was responsible for every piece of POS that you saw in most stores around Europe. So you go into a store and the little price ticket that said a muffin for £1.20 in the UK, then it could be €1.40 in France. But what you might not know is Starbucks have European sites that are all franchisees. So they can price within a banding whatever they want to price it. So we were responsible for the sort of food porn photography, if you like, making these, milk look great and all, artists to make it all look amazing. And we did this beautiful creatives and had all this POS ready to go. But the hardest thing was making sure the prices landed right. So if you go up to the back of board display, have a cappuccino and you have all these prices for all these products, and you think you've got 2,000 stores that can price it pretty much how they want, how are you going to get all those prices on the right POS delivered to the right store? And we had a piece of technology that we built ourselves that did that. And what happened was the Starbucks store would log on, they'd see their template POS, they'd punch in their prices, it would output a PDF, that PDF will get sent to us, we'd then produce it and deliver it back to them. And I will never forget, I got a phone call, and you always remember where you are when you have these phone calls. And I took this phone call and I said that it was an autumn campaign, which is a big campaign for Starbucks. It's when the pumpkin spice latte comes out.
Pumpkin spice lattes. Yeah, everyone knows it.
And in our system, our technology system ingested all of the pricing, spat out all wrong, and we were getting phone calls from 2,000 Starbucks going, my POS is wrong, my campaign's launching today, my POS is wrong, my campaign's wrong. And you imagine 2,000 phone calls coming in. I've got the CMO, because we're in-house, right? CMO just walks over to your desk, what the F is going on? And I'm like literally thinking, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. So I had to work it out. And I didn't leave that Starbucks office in head office till 4 a.m, trying to unpick the mess that the technology platform had made.
Yeah.
And then we had to manually do it for about 3 to 6 months until we built the product that we could lean on it and then, go again. But that was probably my hardest challenge, being, at the forefront of a huge client, which were really, really important to us, that, it was our fault we messed it up.
Fair enough.
But we fixed it in the end.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those you just keep driving through and you eventually get there. Yeah.
The most important thing I found is recognizing, one of the biggest lessons I learned in business is knowing what you don't know. That's you got to figure out what you don't know, and you got to bring the team around you that can figure it out with you. I run a recruitment business. I don't know how to recruit. I've been a hiring manager, but I've never recruited anyone in my life. But I bring around, the talent to be able to help me do it, and you bring them along with the journey, know. So knowing what you don't know is really, really critical, and recognizing that, being humble to admit it.
And yeah, as you say, getting people who are better than you to support, come around you and join you on the journey. Okay. And I noticed you said you had a personal coach. Would you recommend people get a personal coach?
Yeah, I would. I think it's really good. I think that I go to the gym, right? And I believe I relate business to the gym quite a lot. And, when you talk about, in a gym, you don't progress unless you push yourself hard and out your comfort zone. In business, you don't progress unless you're pushing yourself out your comfort zone. And I think sometimes you need a coach in fitness to help guide you and tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, because they've got an objective view of something that is not in your brain and in your mind and through your lenses. It's important you get the right relationship. I've had coaches that have been okay. I've had coaches that have been a nightmare. I've got a good one now. And it's important to find the right person. But once you find that right person, then you build that relationship and bond of trust that you can be open and vulnerable with them. And they can spot things and have the ability to tell you stuff that, you might not be seeing yourself, your blind spots.
Yeah. Which is really important.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? It's quite awesome to look back at what we did at Oliver. It's pretty awesome. When I was at Oliver in the early days, I remember seeing these businesses like Ogilvy, I've got to be like that one day, big agency everyone wants to work for and doing that great work and all that sort of thing, and WPP and BBH and all that sort of stuff. And now, we are, Oliver is bigger and better than them and disrupted the market. So I think I'm most proud of being part of an amazing team, because it was a huge team that did it, that disrupted an industry and became sort of the go-to new way of delivering content. And
what was the niche that made Oliver special? What was the disruption that you guys did?
The main disruption was building in-house teams for global brands. And we didn't start with global brands. We started with a company called DC Leisure, which is ran council leisure centres. So you have to start with those brands and build your way up. But it was what the business basically did was everything you saw inside an agency, we just designed it for our clients internally. And the main proposition was the fact that content's moving so fast at the moment, and there's so much in the world that you need to pick up and run with. The days are gone when the CMO would say, I'd like to do this strategy and let's have a briefing meeting about it. And then we'll do a tissue session and then By then, with content these days, the moment's gone, you missed it. So you've got to react so much faster. And being in-house allowed the CMO to be able to come over to our art director's desk going, I've had this idea, I want to execute it. Great, no worries, war room it out the next day.
Yeah.
So we were able to increase the pace of marketing for our clients by just being in-house.
And then was that, being in-house, you're obviously full-time as well, I assume, on that client.
Yeah, it's full-time. So the way Oliver is pretty much, there's a few companies that have followed in the footsteps because I've seen what it can do. But it was a business that designed and ran client branded in-house agencies. So there'll be clients inside, Unilever wasn't called the Oliver in-house studio, it's called the U Studio. It was branded up the clients.
Yeah.
And we like that because it's seen as internally.
And do you think over your career to date, has technology had a massive impact, or do you think it's just kind of you've gone with the wave? And
technology had a massive impact because, as I said earlier, when I first started doing this, we were
doing
pushing print and snail mail out the door. And then that moved to email, and then that moved to content. So I remember, and it does make me feel really old, but I remember, Facebook wasn't even a thing. LinkedIn wasn't a thing when we first started out. It just wasn't invented.
Yeah.
It was mad. And basically, I remember talking to a client, and we were pushing out thousands and thousands of direct mail from them every month. And you're looking at open rates, and 2% is a good response rate, and this, that, and the other. And then one of the biggest lessons I learned in client services was, and we had a saying in the business, and I'm trying to remember what it was never lose a client through lack of innovation. That was the saying I always went by. So we always had to pivot and move our offering in the direction where our clients were going. So our client was heavily on print, and they were suddenly they told us print is dead. And we were this like sort of design print management company. And we're like, okay, print's dying. We need to figure this out, how we keep this client and provide them a service so they don't go elsewhere. So, innovate the product. Okay, right. Email marketing. That's where this is going. So we went in with them, offered an email package, how you do email marketing. And we did that, and that was great. And we kept the client, and we were lost the client without that. So technology moved that on. And then like, I remember like people started talking about digital, and like, we're digital agency, we're this, that, and that. Like, digital was this like buzzword. And then we quite realized what digital actually was. It's a massive, massive subject. And then you had all these sort of, verticals that spun off of digital, and what part of digital were we going to corner? And then we decided to think, well, content is where we want to move to. And we need to work with our clients on creating content, because that's the next innovation from email marketing. And lo and behold, Facebook popped up, LinkedIn popped up, Instagram popped up. Now, obviously, you've got TikToks, et cetera, et cetera. And we were there with a product, at the time called Content, which obviously is super well known now, that we could offer to our clients. So yeah, to answer your question, never lose a client through lack of innovation. Identify where they're moving to. So, for example, Unilever were moving to digital 2.0. They were moving all their products onto e-com, onto Amazon. They were moving their business because they could see their customers innovating and moving off, and we just followed them and offered it. And before they could realize it, we turned around and said, well, we've got studios all around the world for you. Why don't we set up photo editing booths inside your offices? So we did that across the world.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then I'm sure you've got some pretty interesting campaigns and projects you've worked on. I think when we spoke before the fireside chat, you were talking about one of the sort of pitches that you did.
Yeah.
Have you got? I mean, come on, tell us some interesting stories.
So we did a lot of like, our world was creative, right? So when you're pitching, you've got to you're demonstrating your capability on how creative you are in your pitch. So pitching became more and more important. If I'm honest with you, pitching wasn't at the forefront of what we did when we first started doing it, because we weren't actually we're a creative agency, we're a print management design agency that evolved into a content, because it innovated. So pitching became more and more important. And then we started working with clients who were great at pitching. So for example, it was the story you're referring to, which is the KPMG client. We worked with KPMG for 5 years. We had 4 or 5 in-house agencies across the UK for KPMG and France. And their proposition was they had this department in their business called Pursuits, which was basically tenders. So they had a very specific methodology, which I've taken actually because it's so good, about how they pursue clients and how they go after them. And it's amazing. And basically every touch point that they go for this client has got some level of branding or content that shows that they're connected and they understand them. So we had an in-house creative team, and the Pursuits team said, we want our own version of what you do. We want our own creative team to do our pitches for us. So KPMG might be pitching for Barclays to do their audit or advisory. And the partner, he's dealing with senior guys, would sit there and like, right, my document is going to be on a desk again, next to EY, next to PwC, KPMG, and then Accenture maybe, right? How are you going to make my document stand out compared to EY's? How is my document going to be the first one they pick up because they like it? So we created this sort of pitch team that were really good at pitching, creating pitch books and pitch theatre. The most creative one we came up with was when we pitched to Diageo, and the Diageo team wanted something quite dramatic. The partner wanted quite some dramatic. They didn't actually go for this, but they nearly went for this, which was we did the pitch book, and then we secured the pitch proposal inside a massive block of ice because there's design drinks and that sort of stuff. And we're going to park it outside their front office, and it was going to melt in time for the pitch to be submitted. And that was a bit too far out there. But the sort of stuff that we did was integrating the pitch books into video screen boxes. Now, again, because a lot of people work remotely these days, that's not something, it's going to innovate onwards from this. But what we would do is we would deliver this beautiful box for KPMG, and it had a logo of the client and them, and then they open the box and there'd be really sort of engaging video that would be from the partner that talks about why the business is important and how they're going to sort of be the best partner for them, and then they pull a drawer out in this beautifully printed document. That was more the standard type stuff, through to freezing blocks of ice outside their office.
I was going to say there must have been some research to test that one.
No, probably not. I think it's just an idea we came up with.
Or it's just still in a block of ice.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to melt on time. We didn't really figure it out. We pitched it. We didn't really figure it out. I think they saw through that one. It wasn't going to work.
And did you notice the others, the other sort of the EYs of the world and so on, did they start competing in the same sort of sphere?
Yeah, they did. I think augmented reality started to play a really big part in it. So, a pitch book would arrive, or an item would arrive on desks, and it would have a marker on it. And sometimes we did it with our own pitch. You deliver an iPad, and you get the iPad up, and you focus on the mark, and then all of a sudden, the CEO climbs out of the mark and stands there on the desk for you and talks about, thank you very much for the opportunity to pitch. And we did that a number of times when I wanted to sort of get somebody's attention. Our pitch would be a box with just an iPad in there. Switch the iPad on, and it'd be, thank you very much for switching us on. Please scan the box, and then our CEO would literally jump on the box and be on the desk saying, here I am, and this is the pitch.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just ways of like just trying to. Marketing is attention seeking, right? It's trying to be attention seeking, trying to get the attention of people so they don't think about the other documents on the desk, and they remember yours.
Awesome. I love that story. That's awesome. Now, chapter 1 closed. Chapter 2.
Yep.
What is chapter 2 exactly?
Chapter 2 is a talent acquisition business. So where it came about, because as I said, I'm not a recruiter by trade. I didn't learn that. I was a customer to talent acquisition. So when we were building Oliver throughout the years, our compound annual growth rate was about 74% year on year. And we never had less than 100 vacancies at any one point in time in far-flung countries around the world. And my job was to hire and build all these teams for all these clients, and then they're going to be run by other people at Oliver. And my biggest frustration was recruitment. Like, recruitment was an absolute pain, to the point where I found it was a really transactional relationship, and it cost a lot of money. At one point, we were spending hundreds of thousands a month on talent acquisition. So I thought, would the Oliver model work in this industry? So I played around with it, and then at the same time, Oliver came to the point where it was acquired in 2019, and at the end of 2019, and I found that I could have stayed at Oliver for the rest of my life. It's an amazing place, but I wanted to see if I could challenge myself and go again and do it on my own, because effectively I was kind of like a number 2 guy to the CEO for 15 years, and I wanted to see if I could do it myself. I've been trained really well, so I decided to build chapter 2, which is called chapter 2 because my second chapter in my career, nothing more creative than that. And basically, it was to bring the Oliver model into the world of talent acquisition, meaning that building in-house recruitment teams was closer to the clients that needed the teams, but also actually it was more prevalent because the talent acquisition people going out to market were inside our clients' offices, and that's who they were selling, the client's brand, employer brand. So traditional recruitment, you'd have one recruiter working for 5 or 6 brands with a number of vacancies, but our team go in and they really live and breathe our clients' brands, so they can authentically tell candidates, this is an amazing place where I'm in here, I'm doing it. Then they can really understand what it's like working there and to really articulate it to candidates. Yeah. So I thought, okay, that actually takes the Oliver model a little bit further, actually, because they're really living and breathing brand. And then, I launched it in 2020. I went out great guns. I thought it was the best thing I was going to do.
Perfect timing.
Best timing ever. And then this thing called COVID hit, and I spent 9 months trying to get this thing out of intensive care, and I nearly gave up in June 2020. So I came out the gates. I signed a document that said I'd never compete with Oliver because I'm not moving to that industry, and we remain friends. And I moved into recruitment. I stood in a in-house recruitment event presenting the future of in-house, and actually part of it is also blending content creation with employer brand to dramatize our client's employer brand and how amazing it is to work there. And did that, and there was this thing going on in Italy and China that it's fine, it'll be fine. And 2 weeks later, we went into lockdown, and everybody's being furloughed. Nobody was hiring. The opposite. And I just thought I've made a massive, massive error here. Literally, I spent every day trying to get this thing off the ground. What I did do, in all honesty, was I looked at the world, and I probably spent from February to like June trying to get off the ground what I wanted to get off the ground, which was, the business proposition, which was content creation and in-house recruitment. What I really quickly realized is, and this might help people here, is that no one was buying it. No one was buying it. And it's either I carry on this lonely journey and just keep trying to flog something nobody wants, or I pivot the business and turn it to where the money is. So following the money was a major learning there for me. So I looked at the market and I said, right, who is recruiting? Who is doing talent acquisition? And it was the tech world. The tech world was still thriving. E-commerce, a world I knew really well, was thriving. So then I doubled down and said, right, change the website, literally logged into the back end of the website, changed all the content on the website to e-com technology. This is where we go. And then we won our first client 3 months after that. Literally after pivoting, just looking at where the demand was and just identifying it. We won our first client at the end of 2020. And then I took all of the profits from that business and reinvested it back into the company to push out more content, doubling down on e-com and marketing, e-com and technology. And then we won 2 or 3 clients in Q1 and Q3 and built from there. So I invested in sales, getting a salesperson in to come help. And the biggest lesson I learned, again, I hope this adds value to some of the people here, but the biggest lesson I learned, and actually the best thing that ever happened to me, was I'm providing a product that I can't do, right? Recruitment, I can't do recruitment. I'd be terrible at it if I tried. But what that allowed me to do is never get dragged onto the chessboard, right? Never get dragged into day to day. So, I've got friends who run consultancy businesses, and every day they, I want to get out. My client, they pay a day rate for me, and I can't get out the detail. And the fact is, I'll never do recruitment, so I'll remain off the chessboard. And when you're in the chessboard, when you're in, you look left and right, you can see what's immediately around you, but you can't see what's over there. You can't see what's coming from over there. So it's really hard to have that helicopter view strategically of where you need to take the business. So the best thing I ever did was, not to be able to do the product that I was doing and stay strategic and stay off the chessboard. Staying off the chessboard meant that I could see what was coming. I could see where I wanted to take the business, and just think every day about where I'm taking this company, not, the day-to-day stuff. Hire other people to do the day-to-day stuff. And
obviously when you're starting, and particularly when you're kind of new to technology business or business in general, most people end up getting in the weeds really quickly. Yeah. And, I've always been told work smart, not hard. Yeah. And it can be really hard when you're just working hard to actually step back and take that sort of holistic wider approach and see if the business needs to pivot.
Yeah.
What would be your recommendation for those who maybe feel like they're in the weeds and they have to be in the weeds to keep it going, but really need to take that step back and take a look at what the journey looks like now?
It's a really hard thing to do because, you think that the most important thing you need to do is like deliver that piece of work or, speak to that client or whatever. And it is, frankly, it is the most important thing to do, but you've got to find a way of doing both is the answer to that. And going back to the point I made earlier, which is, knowing what you don't know and or even bringing people around you to give you that capacity to be able to do it. I work in the business all day long, but I don't do the talent acquisition solution. So it's an answer that you probably, it's not a good one, but you have to figure out a way of being able to do both, and then once you've got enough capital to be able to bring some people around you to free up your capacity, that's when you can then step back a bit further.
And I know, like Bill Gates as an example, they do sort of a quiet week where they literally just go, and I'm not suggesting you go and spend a week off doing nothing but reading books. And he goes out to sort of a tree cabin and just spends a week reading books.
Yeah.
That's how he does his. I mean, do you recommend that sort of, maybe take a day over the weekend or something and just go and do something completely different, shut off from the world and just try and work out what the solution is?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely works for some people. I'll quote something that my wife taught me when we first started dating, because, my wife's a boss, and she's definitely a boss of our household. But, when I first met her, I was in London, and I said this on previous podcasts, is she said, "What are you doing at the weekend?" I was like, "I don't know, going out with the lads, watching a game," whatever it was, watching the boxing. And then she said, "Really? That's disappointing, because the weekends are for getting ahead. I thought you really want to make something of the business." I was like, oh shit. Okay. So using the weekends and downtime to get ahead, researching competition, researching what people are doing, it's rare that you're going to be able to get the normal, we don't really work a 9 to 5, but the 9 to 5 to do the strategic stuff. So, that's where the sort of sacrifices are sometimes made, in the weekends and the evenings of, reading up, analyzing what the markets are doing, looking at what competitors are doing, looking where the customer needs are. I mean, the most important thing I ever learned is, when you're in a race, you tend to look at the goal. You don't look at who's around you, because you've got to look at where your demand is, Yeah. And you don't look around you. It's good to get inspiration from competitors and seeing what they're doing and is it working. So I definitely, competitor analysis is really, really key, but not getting too bogged down into it. So if you can get a week at a quiet cabin, yeah, that's good. My biggest tip: take social media off your phone.
Okay.
Honestly, I take social media off your phone. If you're really serious about setting up your business, every hour you spend is a wasted hour on social media. I mean, what was the last thing any of you can ever remember you looked at on Instagram? I can't tell you. So take social media off your phone, because I probably think the average time spent on social media with most people is 1 to 2 hours a day. Well, there's your research, right there, because that's just brain dead stuff. I really, really think that's important. I've got a thing I do, because to be honest with you, social media is on my phone at the moment. But so I would contradict what I said, but I actually try and manage myself. I take it off my phone and I put it on an iPad. So if I do want some downtime, and because sometimes you just need to zone out, right? I watch Netflix to zone out, but sometimes you just want to just sort of gaze at a screen for a long time. I put my social media on an iPad, and then I'm consciously going to get my iPad and I'm going to give myself that time to do that. But the phone, I mean, how many times have you realized you're on Instagram, not even consciously gone to Instagram? It's crazy. And when I took Instagram off my phone, there was a time when I sat there and I was going like this. I went, what do I do? My brain's looking for Instagram. I'm looking for Instagram on my phone. I can't find it. It's mad.
Really?
Take social media off your phone. If you really want to get those hours, and you can't take a week out in a cabin, use your time that you're drilling in social media and on building your business.
Nice. Okay. And I mean, you've obviously faced quite a few challenges, particularly with COVID, setting up Chapter 2. What would you say has been your approach to kind of identifying that it is a challenge and I need to overcome it, and sort of what, I guess kind of taking that step back when it's not necessarily a strategic pivot, but actually I've got a challenge here. How am I going to get past this?
I think, we could be going through one now, the macroeconomic environments are really, really tough. And even in my industry, in recruitment, people are slowing down a lot of their hiring, and I'm staring down the barrel of I'm sitting there maybe mid to late part of last year, seeing this coming, and I was offered all sorts of things last year, and I turned them all down because I could see the economy crashing, and I didn't want to overgear myself. So I kind of I took a step back to identify what was the worst case scenario for the business, i.e. clients start standing our teams down, and how am I going to manage that? And most of the ways to manage these scenarios are to make your cost base, i.e. your cost of running your company, as elastic as possible, right? So don't have large fixed overheads. Chapter 2, we've got 72 people in our business. Our office is big enough to hold 8. Wow. And it's a month-to-month rental because I let people work from home. It's a low overhead. Yeah. And now, we are growing and looking at other offices, but I'm bunkering down, and I can switch that off if I need to. I think a lot of people are using contractors at the moment because I think the contractor or gig economy is just going to continue to grow, and I think that people, instead of wanting to hire big teams of developers or creatives or product owners or consultants, instead of hiring those teams in to have a fixed cost base, I think they're going to want to be more elastic. So I made the business really, really elastic. So create elastic cost base, be really scalable so you can switch things off if you need to switch costs off, and sell and sell and sell and sell. I noticed a lot of people in this audience have got dev platforms, software platforms. And the best lesson I learned, and it was from a guy who ran a software development business, was you have to be able to sell faster than your developers can develop. That's the best lesson I took, because people can get really drawn into, and I've seen it happen in 2 occasions, drawn into like almost creating what might end up, they figure out to be a piece of art, but no one's going to really buy it, So just focusing on demand, focusing on like selling. I say I have in this business, I've always had, I never lie, but I do tell us the truth 6 months in advance. that's kind of like, oversell it a little bit,
It's like sales 101.
Yeah, exactly. Don't lie. Maybe 3 months in advance. Sell the truth 6 months in advance, 3 months in advance, because you have to create that then creates what I would call positive tension in the business, because you've got the sales order then, right? So the most important thing is covered. Cash. Like, yes, it might be a little bit troublesome with the client, because you might overpromise a little bit, but you'll get through that stuff. But if you're building something and burning cash, and you've not got anyone buying it, you'll have 9 months worth of burn rate, and you're done.
And it's another thing I've always been told, that actually first-time founders typically will overdevelop the product and then realize actually route to market and getting that product out there is the key thing that they've made. It's the mistake they've made the first time, and they don't make it again.
Follow the money. Yeah, it sounds quite simple, but just follow where demand is.
Yeah. Okay. And so I guess on that point, how do you know where the latest trends are? How do you stay on top of knowing where you should potentially take the business?
I think you've got, again, being off the chessboard allows me to spend a lot of time in industry research and talking to your clients. Your biggest area of research are the people that are buying it from you today. What do you need? What do you need now? Why are you using it? Okay, is it adding value? What else do you need? What else can we do? Like talking to your clients. So I spend my time literally talking to our clients and prospective clients. And
so just don't be scared to do it.
No, definitely not. Yeah, just like get out and talk to clients. Because your clients are buying your product, right? They're giving you money for something. So they're not doing it because they like your personality. They're doing it because they see value in it. Right? Okay, so the best piece of research you can really do is say, okay, why do you really buy this? What value does it bring your business? Because actually there might be a few surprises there. And then go, right, what else would add value to you? And understanding where their problems are and creating solutions to those problems. Again, innovating, never losing traction through lack of innovation.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of want to move on to, entrepreneurship.
Yep.
You've been an entrepreneur. I'll start with a very broad, open question. Can you do it again?
Yeah, I'll do it again. Yeah. It's got to be...
when you are doing it again,
yeah,
right
I'm
now,
kind of doing it again. Yeah, I kind of like, yeah. So like, I got to, It's weird. The term entrepreneur is interesting because some people have different views of what entrepreneur is. I guess you could call me an entrepreneur. I don't know if I call myself an entrepreneur. I don't really know. I really enjoy business. I really enjoy setting up stuff. So I guess I am. But I've really, I've done it through chapter 2 and I've been part of doing it through chapter 1, Oliver. I think it's really exciting. So yeah, no, I would keep doing it. Do you know what? I love work. I really enjoy work. And it's kind of like a hobby of mine. I don't really have like hobbies other than go to the gym and work. That's my hobby. I enjoy it. I enjoy business. So I think I would continue to do it as long as I'm having fun, and it's not, I'm not sacrificing the other two, which is father and husband. Yeah. That's as long as those are balanced, I'll do that.
Yeah, nice. And what would you say, from a mindset perspective, what would you say is the most important thing for an entrepreneur?
Resilience, like relentless resilience. For me, it has been. People are going to say no. People are going to say it's crap. People are going to say it's not for me. But as long as you listen and you adapt accordingly, and you can, and you have got you generally believe you've got the good product, and the majority of the people are saying it's a good idea and they're buying it. Having belief and resilience in doing it. I had to have incredible resilience through COVID. June 2020, I sat in the garden, and I'll never forget this. I sat in the garden with my wife, and I said, I just don't think it's my time. And I might phone CEO Oliver and see if I can get my job back. Genuinely serious happened.
But you're glad you didn't.
Yeah, glad I didn't. Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't. And I said to myself, I'm going to give it. It was June 2020. I said I'm going to give it till December 2020. Give it the end of the year. I would have given this a year, and I was right. It's not the right time. And I could have gone back to any job in the industry, in any company, and got a great salary and whatever. But so resilience really kept me going. I think I've got good resilience. That's something you definitely need.
And resilience can be really hard. How do you kind of maintain that energy, maintain that positive attitude when you're really down in the trenches, things aren't going right?
I've got some personal stuff that I use to get me through those scenarios. I think you've got to realize that. I tell you, let me give you an example. Again, I'll go back to the Starbucks one because that did leave a mark. I remember being so stressed out on that, and it wasn't just one night. It was like weeks of trying to get this campaign back on track and get it all right again. And I sat with the CMO, and after he gave me this royal rollicking for getting it all wrong and proper hairdryer treatment, he then met me afterwards, and it was quite ironic what he said to me. He went, just want to let you know, because I was like pale, bags, like looking terrible. And he went, mate, you okay? And he went, I went, yeah, I'm all right. We're getting through this. I'm going to fix it for you. And he went, just want to let you know, like, it's only coffee and cake. I was like, fucking hell. It's like, you could have said that to me in the meeting we just had with everybody else. But say only coffee and cake. I'm like, but actually, to your point, it is only coffee and cake, right? You're not a brain surgeon, right? So you've got to realize that, if you are finding it crap and horrible and hard and whatever, you got to just take a step back and go, right, why am I doing this? Okay, I'm doing it for this. It is crap at the moment. Do I see a way out of it? Yes, I do see a way out of it. Am I going to give myself, like I did before, a period of time to see if I can either solve this problem or get this business off the ground? And I gave myself, a certain marker to go for. So I think maybe breaking it down, if you are down, like proper down, and you think you're trying to build something and you've got your head down and you're in it and you're trying to get something off the ground, it's not working, whatever it is, whether it be a platform project or a campaign, and it's just not going well, I would just, instead of going like looking at a target that's so far off, we need to sell this company or platform for X, or this campaign needs to generate Y, I'll break it down into like smaller chunks, So, okay, well, let's just see what this next delivery sprint looks like. And if people buy into it, let's try attacking it from this angle, see if people buy it. Let's change the language of how we talk about product and see if people buy it. And by breaking it down, it's more achievable milestones, And if, you know, you continue to break it down, it doesn't go anywhere, then it's probably telling you something. But if you break it down, you start making smaller steps progress, then, okay, you've been able to break down the bigger challenge and digest it and get through it.
I noticed you used a word in there, sprints. Do you use sprints?
No, I'm not classically trained in that kind of way. So no, I don't. I kind of have project managers around us that do use sprints.
Yeah.
I do believe that sprints work well because, again, like you say, you have this huge ambition to build something particularly large and particularly complex, and sprints break it down into a digestible format. You know, so you know, because also you've got lots of people around you. You know, I'm trying to consider it from a platform development perspective. You've got all these people around you, and all they're trying to do is trying to attach themselves to your vision of what this thing's going to be and do. But you've got to paint the roadmap to get there, and sprints breaks it down for you.
Yeah. Okay. And then looking at just before we come to a close, you know, your tips. What would you say are your biggest tip for sort of developing the right mindset to be a successful entrepreneur?
I've got loads of tips, and in fact, I have a book which anyone wants it. I will take photos from this book on the little sayings that I had at Oliver, and I'll share them with you because I keep this book of all the sayings. You know, never lose a client, lack of innovation. You know, create stickiness within your clients, and offer added value services and stuff.
Is this just notes you made over the years?
Yeah, just notes. Nice. Yeah. It's not like a Richard Branson journal or anything, right? It's nothing like that. It's just things that I kept, and one of the things that has underpinned my journey, and happy to share this, has been, and it is actually, I think it's from Richard Branson. Actually, it's a methodology called market orientation, and market orientation has got three main things within it. And basically, if you can do these three things within your business or your product, then you're on the right path to building something that people are going to buy and want. So market orientation has three things. Is what you're doing, has what you're doing got competitor differentiation, right? Are you doing something that's different to your competitors? The second one is there sustainable customer benefits to that? So are your customers going to buy it, and is it different to your competition, right? So they're the two main pillars. Is this product different to the competition, and our customers going to buy it? Is it going to add value to them? And the third one is operational capability. Are we operationally capable within the realms of the business that we have today to do this? That's the one that usually gets stretched the most because of innovation and pushing. Yeah. You've got to keep pushing them and building the operational capability within your business. You've got to keep having your head up going, right, are we different? Are we different to our clients, and are we adding value? Are we different to our competitors, and are we adding value to our clients? And the other one, which is something I learned on my master's, because I did go back to university, actually. I did a master's. I went straight, I skipped university and did a master's. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I kind of realized, well, I tell you, it was called the Unique Competing Space. And the reason why I went back to university was that so we were growing Oliver at a rapid pace, and we were starting to open in international markets. And generally, I don't mind admitting, we were opening up in markets that I couldn't point to on a map. I was like, you know, and I had to go and build a team there and run a solution. Yeah. It was Jakarta. I was like, and I was like, it was nice. I was like, I'm really embarrassed to admit that I can't point to Jakarta on a map. So I don't know if anyone else could admit the same, but I definitely did. And I had to build a 20-person team there. So yeah, I hopped on a flight and worked out how to open an office in Jakarta. Anyway, where was I with that? Yeah, so what happened was, the reason why we went back and did the masters was, what I realized was Oliver was starting to overtake me. So there's this like pyramid that you'll have, and I'll try to do it around the mic, right? When you have a growing business, your business will be like that, right? And when you build teams around you, your business will have a senior leadership team, and you have the troops around you. But what's going to happen is, if you're successful, your company will go like that, and your business will go like that, and you'll get bigger, and it'll get bigger. And the most important thing is, as you grow, you've got to bring the management team around you as the business gets bigger, knowing what you don't know, right? So I recognized that Oliver was going to overtake me, and Simon, you know, the sort of CEO, was going to have to bring people around him that knew more than I did. And Simon, being my mentor, said, "You need to go on a master's. You need to gear up. You need to go back to school." Because we're talking about international business, we're talking about intercompany cross-charging, we're talking about hyperinflation markets, stuff you have no clue about, which I do now, but I had no clue about. It was in 2011. And so I went back to school, and it was really interesting because, like, I didn't do university, right? barely made it past my GCSEs. And I went into this cohort, and well, first of all, they weren't going to accept Henley. It was Henley Business School, really good school, top 50 school.
Yep.
And they weren't going to accept me because I didn't have a degree. We only accept people who've got degrees. So I wrote to them and said, I think I've got something different to offer your cohort. If you want to have a BA honours degree cohort that has like done it from a textbook and has got 10 years experience, then fine. But I've built one of the fastest growing businesses, and I'm real time, and I've been in the trenches, and I can add something different to your cohort. And they took me on, which is quite cool. So I felt massively intimidated when I walked into the classroom, because you've got all the guys that have been in the army, and you got like the COO of Duracell in there and all that sort of stuff. And then I march in, and I learned loads. So I did go back to school, and I did 2 years doing a master's, and I got
full time.
No, it was an exec. So,
Okay, yeah.
so I did, it was one day every 2 weeks, but it was like in my own time. So I had to carve out. So while doing Oliver, again, using my personal time, I had to carve out 15 hours a week. So 2 hours every night and half day at the weekend was spent doing this master's for 2 years. I disappeared as far as all my friends are concerned. Did that, came out of it, and I got a merit, which is, I was only aiming for a pass. So I was quite happy with that. Got through that. Anyway, one of the lessons I learned from that was to a model from a guy called George Toviska. So I have to reference him. And he taught us this model called the unique competing space. And he drew a Venn diagram, three circles on the wall. And the top circle was, I've got to get this right. The top circle was your customers' needs and customers' wants. The second circle on the left-hand side of the Venn diagram, bottom left, was your competitors' capabilities, similar to the market orientation. And then the right-hand side, there was your capabilities. And if you drew that circle, if you can visualize that circle, there's a section within that Venn diagram that's got where your customers' needs are, your capabilities are, but your competitors can't get to. That's where you need to focus your product. So focus on your customer needs, where your competitors can't get to, and where you can capably do it, similar to market orientation.
So it's actually slightly different to a normal Venn diagram where you're kind of aiming for the middle.
Yeah,
you're
aiming for the right
hand
exactly.
side. Yeah, nice. Cool. Well, I think we'll bring it to a close there. Leo, again, thank you very much for your time. And
pleasure.
Hopefully it's all been interesting for all of you.